Sony just announced the new FS5 Mark II, and we got a hands-on review for you. Well, sorta. Stay tuned.
Flash Film Media, inspired by passion, driven by results. Flash Film Media presents What You Need to Know.
I'm Ty Turner, one of the creative directors here at Flash Film Media and a former Army combat photographer. And today, I want to talk about the new FS5 Mark II. Okay, look, let me just be honest with you guys. Let me just be real with you guys. I've been using the FS5 for about 3 years now, 2 to 3 years. It is probably my go-to camera. I love it. The features are great, and I don't have a lot of complaints about it for the price point. Sony just announced the new FS5 Mark II, and let's just say it is the exact same camera. The only thing they did was threw in some upgrades that are software, and they tweaked the sensor a little bit. But after doing some research and talking to Sony, it has the same motherboard, circuitry, and everything. They just took the time to give the sensor more of the new vintage colors, or colors that are based off of their new high-end camera. The sensor is the same, the motherboard is the same. It comes with RAW out of the box. It also gives you the upgrade to record 120 frames per second in the camera. Now, I have a theory behind why they did it, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's talk about the FS5. The FS5 is a very relevant camera. It gives you 4K 60 with the RAW update, 4K 8-bit internal, 4K 60 10-bit external with the RAW update. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not gonna tell you where to spend your money, but I probably wouldn't go get the new one. It's the exact same. And I'm gonna tell you some really simple steps to achieve what you're gonna get out of the FS5 now. One is color. A lot of people complain about the color, but Sony gives you the ability to tweak the color however you want, where a lot of companies don't. Look into EOS HD. They offer their new Sony Pro Color 3.0 that's out, and it's a list of settings to change in your Sony to get better skin tones. I use it, I love it. It is a must-have with any Sony products, and if you have other Sony products, you can also use it on that as well. That's what I use with my FS5 to get colors that rival Canons and any other color science you may like. And we used to own some Blackmagics. I like the color science out of my FS5 with those updates. And I guarantee you, whatever they're coming out with, it's not gonna be too far off that. I wouldn't be surprised if it is that, but it's not gonna be too much different. For the simple fact that the rep already said you wouldn't have a problem matching the footage from a FS5 Mark II with a FS5 Mark I. That means they're not far apart. They're not that far apart. In the FS5 Mark II, the sensor is exactly the same. The circuitry is exactly the same. The motherboard is exactly the same. The only difference, which we've compensated for, is the Mark II sticker here, and the Mark II comes with a darker ND filter dial. That's it. That's your only difference, and it comes with all of the licenses. Now think about this. If you have the RAW license, you really, in my opinion, you don't need the 120 frame per second license, because with the RAW license, you're obviously using it with the recorder, and if you have an Adamus Shogun, you can get 250 frames a second at 2K. So why would I pay for 120 frames per second in HD? Yes, it's internal. You don't got to run around with the huge Adamus Inferno. However, I'm paying for less speed at a smaller, at a lower resolution? Again? Nah, not me. I'm cool with 250 frames a second, going straight to my Adamus recorder. I'm good with my 4K 60, going straight to my Inferno, or my 4K 120-bit, 120 frame per second burst. Now, let's talk about my theory as to why the camera didn't change. The camera is very relevant. It's very relevant. There aren't many camcorders, or there isn't much in the price point that gives you what this camera gives you. There are some things they could have improved on. They could have improved on focus, autofocus, but let's be honest, real videographers don't use autofocus. A lot of guys complain about that and they want dual pixel autofocus, but real videographers don't use it. I'd rather use a follow focus. The camera is not to determine what's in focus, because if I'm doing a talking head shot and a flyby and it locks on that fly for a millisecond in the middle of my interview shot. Real videographers don't want that. I'm gonna set up my camera, I'm gonna get my focus. Even if I shoot shallow depth of field, I am fine just setting it up that way. I don't need autofocus. Though the autofocus on the FS5 is enough to grab and lock on a face. And I don't need more than that. Would it be nice? Sure, but I don't need more than that. And I'm sure the A7 S3 when it drops, or A7, when it drops, is going to probably offer great follow focus, or at least an upgrade over what it previously had. And that's cool. For gimbal work, yes, you may need it for gimbal work. However, I think the days of huge gimbals for huge cameras, those days are not coming to an end, but they are dwindling. They're dwindling because camera quality is getting better. You know, an A7S2 is all most people need. A lot of people don't need 10-bit, 12-bit, 14-bit. They don't even know what to do with it. They don't even know how much, you can't even afford the CFast cards and the SD cards to save all that stuff on. If it's going on YouTube, you don't need it. So, I think that the cameras of the future for filming, and at some point it's going to be an iPad. You might as well get ready. But right now, there are mirrorless cameras. They're perfect. They can solve about 75% of what you need to film. Camcorders, I say mirrorless is about 50. Camcorders are about 40%, and high-end cinema cameras are about 10%, give or take budget. But for what the FS5 does, all the features are more than relevant to what's available in that price point. You know they weren't gonna overshoot the FS7. They weren't gonna give you 10-bit 4K internally. They just wasn't gonna do it. They barely moved with the FS7 Mark II. They gave it some little stuff. This camera is already ahead of the curve with the electronic ND filter, which is my favorite thing about this camera. The ability to do 4K 120, the ability to do 4K 60, with this small handheld camera is great. What I wish for is that Adamas create a 5-inch Inferno. I know they got the 5 that's out, but it doesn't have a SDI port, so it's only HDMI only. Even though it has an input in the back for future updates, give me an SDI port that I can pop on the back of it so I can use it with my FS5. And I don't have to carry the big 7-inch monitor everywhere. My favorite size monitor is the 5.2 5-inch monitor. That's just me. So really quickly, the FS5 Mark II is the most Canon move I've seen Sony do in a long time. Like, I thought Sony had got acquired by Canon when I read the specs. And those guys are going to NAB and they're just serious faced about what's new with the FS5 Mark II. And I'm like, okay, when new gear come out, I got Craigslist up, I'm typing up my ad for the old gear. I'm thinking about buying the new gear, but when I read everything they said about the FS5 Mark II, I was like, there's no way I would sell my FS5. It's the same thing. So go find you an FS5, get you a used one. Check out Amazon, get a used one off Amazon, buy the little license, and bam, start shooting today. You don't have to wait till September. That's just my opinion. And this is coming from a guy who's using FS5 professionally, consistently for the past 2 or 3 years. It's just not, I don't see a reason to upgrade. There's nothing that would make me want to upgrade. Not one feature, nothing. So the purpose behind maybe coming out with a Mark II with a little tweaks to it is now it's listed as a newer camera. It's listed as a 2018 model. And some people may have went to B&H and looked up camcorders and say, oh, the FS5 is 3 years old. I'm gonna go with the newer, whatever, GH5 or whatever. But now it's a relevant camcorder again. That's a 2018 version, and it's back relevant, though the features are super relevant. Another camera people sleep on is the FS700. If you get an FS700 with the raw license and an Adamus Inferno, which you probably can get all three for under $3,000, it is a win-win-win. It's giving you 4K, it's using the same sensor as the FS5, the FS7. Those cameras are kind of hard to find because people understand what they are. Some people understand what they are. Make sure it's the FS700R and not the FS100. So again, if they would have improved on low light capability, maybe autofocus a little bit, I would have possibly purchased the updated version, but they didn't. So I'm not gonna tell you to save your money. I'm gonna say with our business here, we will not be upgrading. Plus, looking at what the GH5 and looking at what the new Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K is doing, I wouldn't be surprised if the A7 S3 gives you raw output, probably via HDMI. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 4K 60 with 120 burst. They have to bring it, and I can tell you that the quality is going to be great because Sony makes the sensors for the GH5S. Sony makes the sensor for the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera. A lot of y'all don't know that, but those are sensors purchased from Sony. So Sony's not going to sell the competitor a better sensor than it keeps for itself. They're not going to let the competitor outfit that sensor in a better package than they can do themselves. So that's the camera I'm sitting back waiting for. When those specs are released, that's when I'll run to one of the camera stores to put down a deposit because it's going to be an awesome camera. The mirrorless department and the camcorder department are two totally different departments. The mirrorless department don't mind stepping on the camcorder department feet a little bit because it's a different audience. Camcorder is for guys who long recordings, built-in audio. Mirrorless are guys who are short takes, 29 minutes and 59 seconds or below. I mean, they're not for, you're not gonna shoot a soccer game with a mirrorless camera. You're paying for a little bit of durability with the camcorders and you may get a little less features. So I'm not worried about the A7S Mark III being anything less than what we expect. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to give you guys that quick heads up. Didn't mean to fool you guys, but hey, if you want to see what the footage looked like from the FS5 Mark II, go find some FS5 footage, look at it, and imagine that it's a little bit warmer and the skin tones look a little bit better, and bam, there you go. I'll post a link to the EOS HD in the description. I don't know those guys, have no relation. I paid for mine, it works great. If you guys ever want to send me, a free upgrade, I'll be more than happy to get it. And Sony, if they want to send us the FS5 Mark II to put it right next to the FS5 Mark I, we're open to that as well. But I'm gonna ask you guys to do what I ask you guys to do every week. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys with another video shortly. Really quick, we have a new channel, which the channel displays 360-degree videos of car interiors. So if you ever want to know what it's like to be in a Bentley Bentayga, check it out. I'll post a link up here, and I'll see you guys next video.